Welcome, everybody, to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. My guest tonight is going to be a very special guest that everybody knows and loves, and we'll introduce her when she gets here. There's just been some type of miscommunication. Um, so when she shows up, and I will introduce her. But I've got like 7 to 9 people hanging out in the chat, being very, very funny. And of course, I don't want to leave you guys just sitting there all by yourself because, it's kind of like a one-way conversation and I'm just sitting here by myself. So, one of the things I love to talk about is manifestation. And, Spinja and I have been quite involved in this process lately. And a lot of it is coming in clearer and a lot of it is still kind of murky, and you do have to really develop your own system. But I have been like throwing together some notes on it and stuff that I found online. So this is stuff that I've been coming across and other principles I've read about that I haven't quite implied or implemented yet. But it's just an interesting subject, and I know I have the right audience for this because a lot of us are in this community for the exact same reasons, to figure out how the hell to get out of society and be ourselves. So, and manifestation is a huge part of that. So I'm going to just start off by reading some point form stuff. And one of them is get crystal clear on what you want and why it matters. Write it down, make it vivid. Use all of your senses. What does it look like, smell like, taste like? And a lot of this is visualization, because there's a lot of people in this community, I believe Dolores Cannon is one of them, that have philosophized that if you can actually envision something, that it exists in some form of reality, you're just not there yet. Because as I've said multiple times on the show, time isn't really linear. It's just how we biologically experience it, so it doesn't drive us crazy. Because if we actually saw everything all at once, first of all, it would ruin the experience, and secondly, it probably drive us batshit crazy, right? So on that note, that's why you need to visualize. You need to sit and figure out exactly what you want. Like, you take mine and Spinge's goals, and a lot of them have actually started to come to fruition, and that's because of the fact, there's a lot. And Lee, what is time really? It's a man-made construct that doesn't actually exist. It's a measurement unit to like express this experience that really nobody even agreed upon. And it's been changed multiple times throughout history, and that's history is another thing, his story. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Who's got attention deficit disorder? I don't. That's another term, and I am going to allow it to take over here for a second. I don't think I have attention deficit disorder. I have accelerated thought processing. And what I mean by that is this never shuts off unless I'm smoking or sleeping. But, it basically never shuts off, and it's always in process. And I think they use the term attention deficit disorder to make you feel as though you are less. And, because they don't want you embracing your supernatural abilities. And yes, Frank the monkey, I have a brain monkey who lives in my head and helps me with figure things out. That's an entirely different show about my psychosis. But no, back to what I was saying. Get a clear visualization, meditate on it, write it down. You can't really expect things to come into your reality until you truly believe that they exist in your reality, right? I'm just trying to give an example here. You absolutely make sense, and you're working on a totally different level. Thank you, Selena. So basically, what you want to do is start with visualization. When Spinja and I basically decided we were going to get a truck, we got what we could afford, but we knew we deserved better. Now, through some weird circumstances, that truck gradually changed over time, right? When we first got it, we got what we could afford. And, it wasn't exactly what we wanted. It was really nice and had a nice stereo, but it wasn't exactly what we wanted. I wanted something with running boards, and I really liked the look of the louvered hood. And, you know, so then something terrible happened to our truck. Kyla Spinja was in a collision. Well, it wasn't really a collision. Some asshole ran a stop sign and rode off our truck. Well, the truck that it got replaced with was exactly what we wanted, right? It had the running boards, it had the louvered hoods, but then it was missing other things that we weren't specific about. And that's what I'm getting at here is when you're trying to visualize what you want to manifest, you need to be as specific as possible. Because Vicky Joy Anderson told me at one point, and it's very true, that especially when it comes to things like this, we live in almost a legalistic reality, right? You need to be exactly to the point, right down to the letter of what you want, because, it'll give it to you in the most convenient way. Oh, I want a new truck. Oh, my wife gets in an accident. That's not what I meant, right? But then we said again, the second time we were very, very clear, like, okay, this truck is really nice. And, but we got locked in at a really high interest rate. Well, then out of nowhere, the guy that we got the truck off of offers us the opportunity to refinance the truck. And it turns out they wouldn't refinance the truck that we had. So we ended up with a brand new truck with the same payments at a lower interest rate, right? So we actually got exactly what we wanted in the end, right? It's got heated seats, which is good for Spinge's back after the car accident. But you do actually have to be very, very clear in the things that you're trying to manifest. And I'm just going to throw this up really quick. You have to think you already have it and you will get it. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I want to thank everybody. There's like 11 of you in the chat. Hi, Aurora. Hi, Selena. Hi, Tennessee, Kentucky, Bigfoot. Hi, Anchor Haven. My beautiful wife will get the hell to work because you're not supposed to be listening to me. You're supposed to be doing your fucking job. And anybody else that's sitting in the back that I haven't seen or that I missed, I apologize. But it is great to see you all here, and thank you for joining me. And hopefully my lovely guest will be joining us soon too. I really don't know what is going on here. This is completely unlike her. Oh yes, Aurora, I don't know if I missed you. I apologize if I did. The brain squirrels. So back to manifestation. Action step. Spend 10 minutes journaling with the prompt. If I woke up tomorrow and my ideal outcome was already true, what would it be? And this actually goes to what Lee. Oh, Lee, fuck, are you chopped liver? Buddy, you're my miracle that's not even supposed to be here, right? And everybody knows that. This guy is a ever-loving miracle. Like, was supposed to be in a coma for a month, but no, he woke up the day of a double lung transplant because he's just a bad motherfucker. My notes. So yes. Now, back to what I was saying. Spend 10 minutes a day journaling with the prompt. If I woke up tomorrow and my ideal outcome was already true, what would it be? Right? And like I said, that goes into like what Lee was saying, visualize that you already have it, right? Because when you can actually see something, that it means it exists in one timeline or another. Now, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, multiple timelines. Well, I come at it from the point of view of what I currently understand. And I have had multidimensional experiences with multiple timelines, some of which very, very interesting. So I know there are alternative realities that we can pull in with our energetic frequency and emotional frequency. And that's basically how you start to put things into movement. Just one quick second here. You all know and love Joy Child. She is texting me and just said, when working on manifestation, you have to be very clear and concise. You cannot be wishy-washy and think one thing at one moment and then think a lower thought the next moment, because then you stop manifesting. Absolutely. That is actually where I'm going next. Emotional alignment. Um, this is where a lot of people slip up. You can't just mentally list goals. You need to embody the feeling of the desired outcome, right? And there's from Will, hey, Joy Child. But you actually need to embody the feeling. Like you have to physiologically feel and know that what you're trying to pull in is true, right? It's true in some aspect of your reality. It might not be this very moment, just like the truck wasn't, just like my life here in Alberta wasn't. I always wanted to come back to Alberta. I never expected that the house that we were living in would get put up for sale and my boss would die. And that's how I ended up back in Alberta. But it happened, right? I manifested that. But back to the feeling, you need to embody the feeling of the desired outcome now. Neuroscience backs this. Your brain doesn't strongly distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and real ones. When you generate the emotions of gratitude, excitement, or peace as if it's already happening, you shift your energy, emotional frequency, and behavior, right? And we'll just put in the chat, you wanted. That's actually how we ended up here. Our life was in turmoil, like I was saying. And I looked at Spinja one day while we were lying in bed. I had a potential job opportunity here, and it was basically 1.5 words. I said, you wanna. And a couple of weeks later, much to Lee's dismay, we were on our way out here. And yeah, we've been here for 4 years now. Over 4 years. But yeah, we've been back out here for 4 years. And yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. Sorry, I'm keeping up with the chat and trying to, you alchemize the energy. Yes, Selena. It wasn't listed yet. I don't know what you mean, Spinja. So you're already trying to shift your energy and behavior. Try this daily. Close your eyes for 5 minutes. Visualize your goal. Ramp up the positive emotions. Feel proud, feel relieved, and feel worthy, like it's already happening and you've done it. You know, you've got that niche. If you can see it, you can do it. And I'm not trying to sound new age or hokey or anything. This is like biological science, because we live in a biomolecular reality. Okay. Everything here has everything natural has some type of biological structure to it. Right. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Kyla corrected me. It wasn't, the house we lived in wasn't put up for sale. It was condemned, and because he was going to sell it, and then it got investigated. Anyways, so basically you want to close your eyes for 5 minutes, visualize your goal, and ramp up the positive emotions. Feel proud, relieved, and feel that you're worthy, right? Because it really is a matter of believing that you're worthy, right? We've all lived very different lives, and I'm not going to say one person's life was better or worse than anyone else's, but we do have emotional blocks, and a lot of that is the feeling of worthiness, right? We block ourselves from that energetic frequency, right? And we pull in what we believe is real, right? I've said this multiple times on the show, right? Your subconscious, right, is basically the one in control, and it should actually be your higher self, also known as the superconscious, which we will someday do an episode on. Florence Scovel Shinn, who wrote an entirely amazing book about this in 1925 that was banned for a good number of years because it gave away these principles when the government had no control over it. But next one is you want to do the inspired action. And this is a big one because a lot of people, especially things like in the New Age and such, and the book The Secret, skips over a lot of this. You know, there's that whole, if I just believe in it, it'll come true. Well, no, there's more to it than that. Again, like I was saying, we are in a biomolecular physiological reality, and you actually have to put something out for the universe to believe that you're really going to do it too, right? The universe and your subconscious are best friends, They literally just work hand in hand on everything we want to create. So basically, manifestation isn't sitting on the couch waiting for your miracle. It's about aligned action, moves that feel excited or intuitively right and not draining, right? You actually have to move towards what you want, and then the universe will start to roll with you, basically, is what I'm trying to say. The principle: take small, consistent steps that bridge your current reality to the one you desire. Like the universe meets you when you move. Like you can't sit in stagnation and just wish for things, because that's not how it works either. Every one of our molecules is constantly moving, right? We're not even a solid object. This table, this everything isn't really a solid object. It's just molecules that vibrate the same and carry the same resonance and look like the same thing. I'm not even really Dawn. I'm just a bunch of molecules that make this and sound like this, right? But if you were to separate me on the quantum level, I'm not even a solid object. Neither are you, neither is the computer. But we can actually interact with that, right? We just have to believe that we're the ones actually in control. And I'm going to throw up Tennessee, Kentucky here. Humans are so powerful, we had to put into this power structure to keep us in check. Absolutely. That's why we're stuck here. That's why so many people get stuck, right? I'm not saying we are, because most of the people in this chat right now have a basic understanding of these fundamental principles of manifestation. I just thought it'd be fun to go over them while I'm waiting for my guest, because like I said, this is really weird and out of character, but it really is. You have to believe in what you're doing. You have to start taking some of the steps. And I know that sounds like, oh, well, if I am doing it, then what's the universe doing? The universe is assisting. Okay. And you need to ask yourself, what's one action I can take today that my future self will thank me for? For me, it's simple things around the house. Like, I need to do this project in order to allow our family to move forward. So I'm going to do it today. I know I could do it on the weekend, but if I do it on Friday, then I have all of Saturday to do the things I need to really progress in where I want to take me and my family, right? It's getting rid of the things in your way is basically what I can explain it as. Okay. And this is a big one for a lot of people. Okay. Obsessing, release attachment to the how. This was a big one for me, because I was like, how is this going to happen? There's only so much money. There's only so much this. There's only so much that. Then I started realizing, like, when we needed something, it always seemed like we'd get it at a discounted price, or somebody would have one, right? It was things that we truly needed to draw into our realities, right? We needed this, we needed that, we needed, okay, I'll use Joy Child as an example. She's in the audience, right? Bottled water here is ridiculous, because there's a deposit on all the bottles, and drinking bottled water is not the greatest for you. Well, we put it out to the universe that we wanted cleaner drinking water and to not have to pay for these bottles and blah, 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 blah. Enter Joy Child, and we've worked out an agreement where we exchange water for baked goods, the way community is supposed to be. She gives us fresh drinking water. She gets delicious sourdough treats from Spinja, right? That's how this is supposed to work. And that's something we brought in. I'm not saying we manifested Joy Child and Ben, but we drew them into our reality because they were of like frequency. Sorry, I'm going to go back up here. Because speaking of Joy Child, and it just went way too far. Boom. Everything is about energy. The more positive the energy, the better. Absolutely. So basically, obsessing over the exact path creates resistance. Trust that there are multiple routes to your outcome. Stay open to surprises, detours, and better opportunities than you ever imagined. And that's what Kyla actually taught me. I know I keep flipping back and forth. Her name's Kyla and her name's Spinja. We know. Was the phrase that or better, right? Because I'd always be like, oh, yeah, I want that. And she introduced me to that or better because, we had a really nice truck, but better came in at cheaper. So that or better also works in principle, right? You can't obsess over how it's going to happen. This pair's principle, the second principle, hold the vision tightly, but hold the how loosely. Okay. So you hold on to the vision of what you want or where you want to be or who you want to be, or, something you want to change about yourself. You can hold that vision of the thing, but it's letting go of the how, right? And that's one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome because we are trained as humans to be very material. And I'm not saying materialistic, I'm saying material. We think of things as physical science for the most part, when actually it's just a molecular structure and it's all energy, right? We pull things in because of our resonance. And you can't tell the universe exactly how it's going to happen. You can tell the universe exactly what you want, but it's going to give it to you in the way that it sees fit or as directly as possible. Rob Killell, you guys all know him. They're in the chat. Well, except for Joy Child and maybe Lee. But he tells a story about, needing a particular amount of money to fix his car. And then he got in a car accident, and the payout for the insurance was the exact amount that he had been asking for, but he no longer had the car, right? So there's another example of being very, very specific in the things that you want. The fifth one I would mention is inner work and belief upgrades. Your subconscious beliefs act like a thermostat. If you believe I'm not worthy of success, you'll self-sabotage. Manifestation requires cleaning up the limiting stories, which is what I was just talking about. Techniques that I've heard work. Stephen Stathis is a big one on affirmations and sigils. Shadow work, this is a huge one. You can't have negative thoughts. And this goes back to the beginning of what I was saying. You can't have negative thoughts and expect the universe to reward you positively. Because if you're like, I suck or this sucks or whatever, it's just going to continue. You can't ask for one thing and then truly in your heart, because that's one of your energetic projectors, you can't believe that you don't deserve it, because your subconscious and your superconscious, your higher self, all of it knows when you're lying, right? Evidence. This is another one. Tracking your progression through what you're trying to do, right? When we look back, it's like, oh yeah, we've been in the same trailer for like 3 years. That's great. But 3.5 years ago, we were homeless and almost out of money. A lot of people don't realize this. We left Ontario because we had to, right? We were running out of options. We took a leap of faith because it was that or be pushed off the cliff. Now, the divine, the universe, whoever have you that you believe to and talk to in your head, sometimes will work in a very, very interesting way and push you off the cliff, right? Or kick you out of bed with multidimensional conscious nightmares and make you wake up to this sort of thing. But we won't talk about who that was ignoring it. But yes, absolutely keep track of your progress. And for me, I'm not big with writing a lot of things down, but I do have a very good memory. And one of those things is keeping a timeline in your head. When I was in rehab for alcoholism, they called it the tape, is the term that they use. Being able to wind back the tape and see where you made the mistakes and see the stories you were telling yourself is one of the ways to quickly progress through your addiction and it also works with manifestation, is when you're constantly in review, you can see that you are progressing even though it's slow. Like you might want a giant mansion, but you live in a trailer, but 4 years ago you were almost homeless, right? That's progression. That's tracking your own manifestation in real time. And I know 4 years seems like a very, very long time, but in the broad scope of things, it's really not. It's like, who knows what percent of your life, because we don't know how long anybody will live. But in the, in an 80-year lifespan, to progress this far in 4 years is fucking phenomenal, in my opinion. And I'm just going to throw this up really quick here. Will again said, if you think this sucks, the universe thinks you mean I want this to suck. Exactly. If you ask for suck, you will get more suck. And there was something down here from Joy Child. Boop, 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 boop. 1 second. Joy Child, the universe doesn't judge. It gives exactly what you're asking for, whether it be positive or negative. Exactly. It keeps handing out what you're asking for, right? And one of the other things is using gratitude as a multiplier. And what this means is gratitude shifts you from lack to abundance. This raises your vibration and helps you to notice opportunities that are already present. Because a lot of the times, the things that we're begging for that will get us to the next level of the manifestation that we're trying to accomplish start off as a smaller piece of something that's already right in front of us, right? There's been a huge progression at my job, and my job was enough to maintain, but it wasn't progression. Well, then I shifted my focus and my emotional aspect on my job and started enjoying it. My job literally sucks, but right? I know we're talking about a lot of things that suck, but my job literally sucks. I'm a septic truck driver. It sucks shit to be literal. But no, like I shifted the way I felt about my job, and my job shifted. I started getting more overtime. I started getting more pay. I started getting more hours. I started getting benefits. I started getting blah, 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 blah. And it happened because I shifted, right? I started seeing the things that were right in front of me and being grateful that I had a little bit more than I had a few years ago, right? Because a few years ago, I was up in the Rocky Mountains working at a minimum wage dishwasher job, and Spinja and Will, who are both in the chat, were 3 days from homeless and having to live in our minivan. We were that close, but we kept believing that we were going to be okay. We worried, and you can even manifest it in some lower states, because when you truly believe that something is meant to happen, it will. It will really happen. You just have to believe that you are worthy of this. And this goes back to the worthiness and the lack of self-doubt, right? So that's where gratitude comes in. And some of the practices they have listed is every night, write down 3 things you're grateful for. I don't really write them down. I more talk to the voice in my head, not Frank the monkey, the higher self, that you're truly grateful for. Oh, this is a new one. I might actually have to try this, but again, I'll probably just do it in my head. Every night, write down 3 things you're grateful for, plus 3 things you're grateful for in advance, right? As if they've already happened, back to like what Lee was saying. Oh, we are, hold on. I'm gonna put a pause in that, because we're gonna do something, and this is gonna be a little offbeat, but she's here.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, don't be sorry. I know that we live in different time zones, and we were just we were just going over, we were riffing over manifestation, so it is okay. And we have a lot of lovely people in the chat that are very, very excited to see you again, Miss Duck. There's about 10 of your friends already here in the chat. So for one of my lives, that's a big number, you know. And okay, so I'm going to do this. I know we've already had the music, but welcome everybody to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. Tonight we have a very special guest returning who has become a fan favorite. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart because she's given me some very sage advice over the years, not just on this show, but in our very home. Because Psychic Duck has told me some things about manifestation, reality. I've caught stuff of hers on Rob's show as well. And she is a very, very wise little duck. And it's always a pleasure to get to have her back on my show. So please, everybody, welcome back Miss Psychic Duck.
Hi, everybody. Well, Don, you're really, really a kind person. Seriously, I feel really embarrassed. I had a long walk, as you see, guys. It came from the clouds. Don't go to the clouds. It's not really a grounded place.
Yeah.
Even though, would you walk with me?
Oh, I would walk with you in the clouds anytime, Miss Duck. Everybody is loving you. There's Will, my son. Glad you're not missing in Quackerton. There was a lot of quack related jokes earlier. But no, we absolutely love having you here and so happy you could make it. And you know what? We got to do a lot of good stuff on manifestation, and you just made me realize that I need to do an entire show on manifestation. So this is just a happy coincidence, not a mistake, nothing upsetting. So I am very happy to have you here.
Okay.
Oh, I gotta give you one right back. So I guess I wanted to ask you, in one of the other shows, we talked about how you came to be the duck, right? But was there a specific moment or event in your duck life that awakened your gifts, or did your gifts come before the duck?
Ooh, you're entering the human timeline. You're gonna access the human timeline. Let me connect with the human real quick. Let's see. He's cool with answering that question. We will say that he got recognized. That's the best way to put it. Because I feel like a lot of us don't realize that we have gifts until somebody says, hey, you are this. And then you take a step and you're like, so I'm not weird? You actually, I have something good to say? I'm saying something important? Really? Me? I can do this, I can do that. I just need to like sharpen it or do a practice of some sort. We would say it's kind of that. But I would say through me, the human felt more safe to connect with others or helped others feel safe to connect with humans. And somehow, for some reason, kids felt safe looking at me than humans. Like, we would be told this child is this child is that, and then they meet me and somehow we just, I don't know, I peck them a bit and they shut up. Now, you know, they just like me, and you know, and I had my buddy Raphael. For those that know about Raphael, I had my buddy Raphael. He lives in Koreatown, so if you find him in Koreatown, Los Angeles, tell him please come back to me. But you know, he's on a mission now. He's helping, you know, like little boys not do things that make them regret their lives, because we all need somebody like that, and that happens, and that's less spoken of, I think.
Yeah. And you touched on something very important there, and that's why I love this community. Is there are so many gifted people that I've had on my show and we've seen on other shows, and I've had a couple of them tell me that I have particular intuitive gifts and possibly healing abilities as well. And it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, really? I and it's something I was unaware of. And a very gifted healer, Matt Mornian, was doing a session on me. And when we were talking after, I said that I was like, I could actually feel this and I could see this and that. And he's like, you know, that like most people don't get that far into it and they can't go into their body like you are. I'm like, oh, right. So it really is those aha moments that other people often give us because we're kind of spoon fed this story by or society that we're not special. You know, everybody's all the same and everybody gets a trophy. But I know we do all have these abilities, but some of them come in clearer, faster for other people. And you don't realize it until somebody else says, hey, do you know that you're special?
And that's why it's important for us to talk to one another or to say something. And it took me time to accept that about myself too. A lot of times I'll keep things to myself, but now I'm in a place where if I see somebody, I see it as a form of kindness. You know, I see it as a dharma. I'm like, I'm gonna allow you to be in your truth, and when you're in your truth, you're in your power. Or that's became my love language, we can say per se. And I feel like a lot of times we live in a world where people are just not in the heart space. And the more that we sit in the heart, the more we can expand and open up. So, whenever in doubt, just take a look at what your heart wants in that moment. And and for some of us, the heart may want to kill, and that becomes a problem if the heart wants to kill. If the heart wants to kill, you have to ask the heart, what is missing, or who took your weapons away, who took your space? Because a rested heart does not seek, destruction, or does not seek to, avenge or fulfill an intense desire. That includes like eating a lot of ice cream. And I feel like that's where a lot of people like get really confused when they're manifesting, because they're manifesting from a place of they need more of, or they think they can only feel better when they have this grand, huge thing with this 4 sentence story, like a very like long story. The longer you speak, the better you are, type of energy, and people get lost in that. And the truth of it is, people are like that because of the families they grew up in. They were not believed unless they could back up every single claim. Little do they know, a lot of the people that ask for like intense evidence of who are you with, who did you talk to, what did you talk about, did they mention where they work, did they mention what time they leave their work, who mentions to that detail? But I guess I feel like bringing this up because a lot of people think they need to be so detailed in their prayers, as if like God's not listening to them right now. And it's like, who am I? What am I? And they're trying so hard that they miss the exact picture of who they are and where they are. And I don't know. I kind of feel like not a lot of people talk about that. And that's where people slowly start giving up. They stop shaving. They stop, like opening the window. They stop, like just talking to their friends or meeting with their friends. And I feel like this is happening a lot of the community. And we need to notice that and be careful. And that's where we need to share ourselves more. When we notice ourselves slipping into that doorway, that's where we need to get up. And even if we post a cat picture, that's a good step forward. It's like, okay, I'm accessing my heart. I'm sharing something that is beautiful and funny to everybody. I feel like some energy opened up for me to talk about that. I'm not sure why. Who needs to hear it? I hope they receive it. Yeah.
I absolutely agree, and that is very relevant because like it is society. I've kind of rambled about this before. Society is like what they wanted, and community is what we're supposed to be in. And this is just my understanding of it. And I think when we do open the window and have like-minded people to talk to, it's far easier to be your authentic true self. And that's something that makes us want to shut ourselves in and stay away from other people because we're not supposed to be ourselves. And that's just something I think we've been trained into. And I love that you're saying this and, be your authentic self. And that's it. It's ironic that you bring this up because we're just talking about manifestation and emotional frequency. And that's key to all of this is like being yourself, being emotionally balanced with who you are, being in your own power is one of the most important things. I love that you bring this up.
I would add also being beyond the role of who you are. And I feel like, and I'm speaking for those that were born in, I would say anyone born before 1993 will relate to this. I would say life in the past was all about what you contribute to your family. And your family could be, your drunk friends. If these are the guys that you live with, how do you help your drunk friends stay drunk? or be a better drunk, which does not make sense. If you're not good at that, you're like, somebody will just kick you out of the door. Oh, you suck, you're this and you're that. And I think that's the problem. A lot of people are stuck in that state and they don't even know it. It's like they're still stuck into, I am this person's dad, or I am this person's son, or this person's, boyfriend. And you haven't spoken to this person for 20 years, but you're still their boyfriend from a frequency perspective. And I think that's hard. That's a hard pill for people to swallow. People want to feel, I'm tough. They want to feel like, it's like an insect. The insect needs to have a hard shell. I don't want to be squished. When they talk, I don't know if you've seen insects fight with each other. Have you?
No.
There are videos of insects fighting with each other. If you want to, for those that just want to smoke and get really weird, you can watch insects fight with each other. And if you look at insects are different than animals, because when they fight, it's kind of like there's a show, like a parade that happens, like boom, 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 look, and they puff. Like you don't really see that with animals and tigers, like lions and tigers. They'll just like show their skill, like they'll show their stride, like just like movement and twirls, and kind of like Spider-Man energy when you see like mammals fighting. And even humans too. Humans use their voice more, like birds, like I don't give a fuck, like type of energy. Like you see humans do that, but with insects it's more of they wiggle. I forgot the end of their body, like the shell, like look how tough my exterior is, you can't squish me type of energy. And people get stuck in that. It's like if I admit that I'm still the frequency of who I was in 2001 in that relationship, they feel like their shell is easily squished and broken if they sit in that space. So there's a strong resistance, of sitting in that space of, oh, let me explore where I was in 2001 and who it was and who that person expected me to be and what was important to them. And as we look at that, we ask ourselves, is that important to me? Because sometimes the answer is yes, it's important to you. But what changes is asking yourself, why was that important to you? Why was it important that you fulfill somebody's ideals? Or maybe it's a shared value. But as we look at that and we add more of who we are into that imprint, we separate from that timeline. And I can share that from a perspective, like I was so scared to have money in my account. Like I look at money in my account and be like, oh, that's not my bank. There's an error. That could be me. There's no way. And it doesn't make sense, right? But I felt so unworthy of receiving like anything, actually. Like no, I shouldn't. Like I shouldn't eat this, or I shouldn't. It just felt like something was wrong. Like this is off. Like I should give this away. This is not mine. Like it was terrible. It took me so. I had to really sit down and look at all the things I didn't want to look at, honestly. And a lot of times it ended up in tears. I'm a crybaby. I don't know, I'm a duck. I'm a crybaby. Like it ended up in tears. It ended up with anger that I betrayed myself. There's this whole roller coaster of, whoa, why did I let myself go through that? But I'm in a place where I just see it as we're so lucky. Like every single person that watches this show, Don Rogers' show, like Rob's show, and I'm sure there's other shows. Anybody that's watching this show right now, we're the luckiest people alive. Because we can make a change. We are willing to do something. Our parents didn't have that opportunity.
Nope.
They didn't. Like, a lot of them just sit in bitterness and despair, and the only reason they do that is because the only way they could access a piece of themselves. Imagine what has been bestowed on them. You look at yourself and we're like, whoa, 2002 was crazy. Oh my God, this happened and that happened. Can you imagine 1996 or 1962? I had to run away with this guy and I got caught. And it's just some. We're so lucky that we can sit down and even cry. I started to see life as that and just give gratitude, and it just. I don't know. I just feel like I'm bathed in a way. It's like, whoa, I can have this beautiful bath with my thoughts, and no one is telling me to shut the fuck up or I'm lame. Now I'm surrounded by people that want to actually speak something. They respond. Like you look at the chat, people are talking amongst themselves. They're responding. No one is saying, who the fuck is this dude? Maybe there's one or two. They'll just mock us or something. And that's gonna happen. There's gonna be somebody, a troll of some sort. But to see a majority of people, like you just log in and they're just pouring their hearts out in different way, and and we talk about all the aliens and no one's mocking us or shoving your heads in the toilet. Like I don't know. To me, that's a blessing. I start to look at perspective as that. Like we're so lucky that we can create and change our lives. Like, it was harder, like earlier on. It was so hard to just even move. You didn't have GPS. You want to leave your town? Good luck. You're going to read every sign, and if you run out of gas, good luck. There's no gas till I don't know when. Like, we're so lucky, guys.
Yeah. My beautiful wife in the audience said, "Yeah, the host is a total weirdo," and I have to agree. He is kind of fucking strange.
Oh wow, who's that guy?
Yeah,
Yeah.
This guy behind me. I don't know. But you touched on something there, and it's kind of personal to me. And I know Aurora is in the audience too, and I'd love to ask this question: the difference between slowly changing ourselves and breaking out of that character versus being a walk-in. Where would you say that line is? Because I know there's a lot of us in this community that aren't the people we were 5 years ago, right? And some of us have made a slow change, and then, like myself, I just woke up one day and felt like a completely different person.
I feel like for some of us, and I can definitely, I'll say that about the human behind my butt. The human behind my butt, yes. I can speak for that human. And I would say definitely a walk-in experience did happen where there's just a 360 shift, and no one in her family recognized her even. Like, if you had to put her when she was younger and now, it's two different people. And I feel like a lot of us have had that experience. I feel like these are agreements in this lifetime. Similar to death. It's like sometimes we have more than one death that happens. It's like, wow, I agreed to die on this day and make a choice to come back here and there. I feel like with walk-ins too. But I feel like walk-in is kind of a blanket statement for something else. I guess I'm in a place where I'm willing to say there is more that I cannot say. I feel like there's more to it than the word walk-in. And I feel like we all go through it sometime. Or some people just, it's kind of like I feel like for some of us, or when I look back at that human, she was done. Like, it was kind of like either she really dies from some illness, like she was going through a lot of stuff, like even physical illnesses at that time. Either she just dies or she just does something totally different. I think it's the soul just knows that this is enough. Like, we need to do something different now. And for some people, they start going into hard drugs. For some people, I feel like for some women, they start breeding. They'll just have a baby, one baby after another. It's like they go into creation mode, like they need to create something, like to create themselves. I feel like there's another piece of that, and a walk-in can happen through that portal. Like, giving birth is a portal. I think for a lot of women, they start changing after certain babies. It's like a walk-in shows up through that birth. And for some of us, it's just, for me, it was more self-destruction. I was in self-destruction phase. Like, I just knew, like, There was a part of me that fought to be sober when I look back. It was like I wanted to, but just, it didn't work. And I feel like there's other ways some people have walk-ins. Like, even if you think about, I don't know, blood disorders per se. You're lying in bed for hours. You're not really here.
Yeah.
And you'll see people start drawing or writing when they can. And then you'll see something changes in their eye. And somehow those that return to us, sometimes they'll return as like an elder for the family system. You'll see it. You'll see it in some people. They'll return like a great-great-grandpa. It's like the soul returns in a sense. There's like more of a soul braid. I think that's the word. There's a bit of that. I'm trying to think of other ways. I feel like these are agreements that we have. It's like kind of the soul. It's like a video game. Suddenly you drink this potion and you power up because you're gonna die soon. You just can't, and somehow you just find that thing. And there are times when you battle and you get stronger. I feel like in life we have those agreements too. And I'm reflecting on people 60 and over. And there's a man that I know of. He's 95 years old. And it's interesting to see all the different people he's been in this life. But right now at 95, I recall asking, I'm like, who do you relate to most? And he said, to the version of him that's 63. And you do see differences in thought and mannerism and everything. I think the hardest part is, and I'm not saying for this community, I'm talking about like the general everyday public that will watch this in the year 3300. I really believe our videos are going to go viral in the year 3000, similar to all these artworks. And there's going to be other versions of us that are merged with the AI some sort. They have an extra eyeball that's electronic, and they're like, whoa, these people didn't have any electronics on them. Should I go back to removing old AI stuff on my brain? I don't know. I just imagine the year 3300, there's like an extra eyeball and all that technology. I'm I'm getting lost. I got lost with the AI stuff. But what I'm trying to what I'm trying to say is that there's different ways of or different agreements that happens. And oh, now I remember my train of thought. I feel like we need to accept that we're multidimensional. And to accept yourself as multidimensional is to accept that you'll constantly be creating another version of you. And and this is another example that I see with musicians and artists. You'll see a lot of them fall into depression because they're forced to sing a certain way or to do only that type of music. And their hair must look like how they were when they were 20 years old, and their voice and their aesthetic, and the bro is like 53. And I'm like, there's no way you're God have mercy on him. It yeah, and depression happens. And the truth is because, you're just locked in a ball of chain. And a lot of people do that to each other because they think that's how you show that you're a good person. You have to work, serve your God. And to serve God is to serve your biological father and mother and all these people. Like, the more locks you have, the less likely you're going to have those chain of events of where a walk-in shows up or a soul braid of some sort. And for some people, sadly, and I can relate this to my own dad, like I would say, had more of a soul braid a year or two before his death. And that's when he felt safest to be truly himself. Because he had the life where he couldn't be himself. He was really abused. That's the best way to put it. So for some people, they can only really truly access themselves to be when they feel safe in their environment. That's why it's important to find the right family or the right people to talk to. And, don't go to Walmart, guys. It's just things get crazy there. Yeah.
I did want to ask you some questions about abilities. I've, in some of the descriptions, read your predictions are classed as timeless. What would you say makes them timeless? Because that's one of the things is like you and a lot of other people that do predictions do the broad scope. And I think that's because time isn't really real. Is that why they're timeless, or is there another aspect to that?
I would say it's I guess when I'm speaking here, I'm thinking of all the people that haven't watched this show yet or don't know of us, and I just pray that they find what they need. I don't know if you guys do this, but I do this a lot. Randomly write random words on the search bar, and then just press on any video, and then I'll hear something that I needed to hear. It's like, God answers our prayers that way. I guess that's my love language. I want to be that for that random person somehow, even if it's to just validate that they should drink more water. Like, I don't know. So I guess that's how I see timelessness, is for anybody to access us or this video or anytime. Somebody that's just wide awake at 4 a.m. and they shouldn't have smoked that last joint, and, it's like all the bad decisions, and they'll just randomly see, oh, what is this? Or their hands are too numb to like change the channel, and somehow YouTube populates this video. I want them to experience that. It's for those people.
I love that. And it makes me wonder, when we're talking about timelessness, and this is something I've actually started trying, is do you think it's possible to communicate in our own minds with the other versions of ourselves that exist throughout time?
Ooh, I love this question. Yes. And for those that are uncomfortable doing that, you can start assigning pictures or symbols or drawings. And this is for somebody that's very, very unsure. Or for those people that had a mother that didn't believe them. This is for you guys. For those that had a mother that never believed anything you said. Everything you said was just wrong. You were not good enough. I would say to access other versions of yourself, I have two methods. The first method I would say is choose just five shapes. Just 5 shapes, like circle, square. And if you're not comfortable drawing, for those that are anxious, you can even just, go to Dollar Tree of some sort and just get a kid's card with shapes and just choose 5 shapes and put them in front of you and say those shapes are you. And slowly under each shape, you can start writing attributes or adjectives that show up in your head. And then with time, you might see a scene of who, the shaped triangle was you when you were 7 years old, or the shaped triangle was, and then rectangle was you in the 19th century. That's one way to access yourselves for those that are very anxious. And I guess I'm speaking for those that are very new to this stuff. And the second one I can say is I would say close your eyes and try to feel into like years. Like even if you get a year in the future, that's okay. Close your eyes and choose 5 timelines. Like I would say, like you can start with the year you were born. You can put that in as a grounding point, and then you can choose 2011, and then 1997, and then that. And over time, just notice who you were in those times and see what they all have in common. You can even start drawing a circle in certain words, like 1997 you moved, 2011 you moved, maybe just an example. 1994, and I would say for women, sometimes you'll notice there's a pattern between pregnancies. I would say notice if, like every 5 years you got pregnant, for example, every 2 years, then you took a break 1 year, then another 2 years, and then you got another child. Just notice these little subtle patterns, and from there something might speak to you, like you'll arrive to something. I think that's the hardest part. People try to force it so hard, and we arrive to things. I'm not sure how that works though. I feel like sometimes there's ancestors, family members, or angels or guides that just, we suddenly hear their whisper. I feel like I have spirit guides that are just sick of me. They're like, "Oh, he's here again. Okay, here's what it is. Okay, you're bad, fine." I feel like I have spirit guides. They're like, "Oh, like that with me." I just have that relationship. I'm totally cool with it. Yeah, I forgot the transmission already, but there are different. That's just a few ways for people to access themselves, and I would say, guys, don't feel shy if you have to do that. If you have to. I remember I used to I liked really big pieces of paper. I'm not talking about A4. I don't know why. I liked something that was just big. It gave me more freedom to scribble and make mistakes and draw and make lines. I would start there and see the patterns, see what you get. You'll have something visual. So the voices in your head don't tell you like you're crazy, shut up, this is not working, you're imagining things. I'll go through that. Stop this, you're imagining. Like, look at how much you have in your pocket, you become schizophrenic. You're this, yeah. So for those that have all these self-doubts because, we're considered weird on planet Earth, sometimes having a visual helps us to be like, no, this is a multi-day process and this is what we saw and there are real patterns. And slowly we will trust with ourselves. I think the main thing I'm learning is like to manifest, you really have to have self-trust. And through self-trust, you'll be able to see clearly what is and take the opportunities. Because sometimes, like let's say if somebody wants to manifest a job that's more aligned to their soul, and how can you find that if you don't trust who you are? Yeah.
You touched on something there, and I want to talk to you about it after the show because it's something I'm not willing to talk about on the air yet. Really quick though, Jason from the community just pushed something in the chat, and I hate to interrupt the show, but Selena Ingalls is a friend of the show. She's actually been on once. Help Selena and her 3 girls recover from a house fire at her GoFundMe. And I'm actually going to get Jason to send me this link, or Selena can send it to me. And I'm going to put it in the description as well for when this goes to audio, because Selena and her children are absolutely lovely people. And this is a very unfortunate circumstance. So if there's anything anybody can do to help these wonderful people out, please do, because they did not deserve this. I know everything happens for a reason, but sometimes it's shitty. And sometimes it's because the community needs to help one of their loved ones. So please, guys, if you can, please reach out and help Selena. I don't usually ask you guys to do this, but this is a truly lovely family and a very unfortunate circumstance.
Yeah, guys, please listen, please care, because that could be any of us. That's the sad part. It really could be any of us, and these things happen, and I see some people, they'll be like, oh, somebody will take care of them. People just turn the other cheek a lot when they see stuff like this. Oh, somebody. But you're that somebody, Anything, guys, like even if it's like $1 or $2, you're that somebody. Like I feel like a lot of people don't trust themselves, so they're like, no, somebody's better than me that can help. Yeah, I just want to put that out there. That's kind of one of the ways you can, really feel your own energy and feel into your power. It's like, oh, I can extend a hand, and as we all get together, it turns into a whole kaleidoscope, and then something will emerge. It's like a push from the universe that just happens. And we love you, Selena. You deserve more and more and more. And I'm really sorry for what happened. Like that's really scary. Yeah.
It is, and it literally can happen to anybody. We had the fire department here last year because one of our power bars almost caught on fire, and we couldn't figure out. Will actually woke us up in the middle of the night because the whole trailer was full of smoke, and it was melting the carpet. Like it really can happen to anybody. It almost happened to us. So please, guys, if you can do anything to help her out, do so. Like the lovely duck said, even a buck or two is a buck or two more that they could use right now. And this is exactly what we're talking about when we say community instead of society. Society are the ones that go, somebody else will help her. This is family. This is community. This is the close-knit interconnection and emotional love that we all need. And right now, one of our members of our community needs us. So please, guys, do reach out. I don't mean to sound like a freaking telethon, but that one just hit me right in the heart. And I'm so sorry, Selena.
Yeah. It's a hug, Selena. Hey. And a peck to wake you up.
I am going to add that to the end of the show. You were just talking about spirit guides, and it's funny because you're a duck. Do animals have spirits or guides that communicate with you differently than humans?
Let me answer this question by asking you a question. Have you noticed how you laugh when you're playing with a dog?
Yes.
How does that laugh differ when you're laughing with a human being?
Very true. Because with a human, it almost feels forced. With a dog, it's just because they're being silly or I'm enjoying it.
It just happens. Just become silly like that. Yeah, it's with animals, I would say and this is just my own, like when I've had people ask me to do readings for animals, I should put this more publicly, actually. I've been thinking about it, but I keep getting anxious. So you're helping me out by asking this question, so thank you. So when people ask me to tune into their animals, or what do their animals need from them, or how can I help my animal do this and that, and it's interesting. It's like I see their eye, and then suddenly I just see pictures, and they feel like a 5-year-old with many of the ones that I've felt for, and even the ones I've interacted. I feel like I'm talking to a 5-year-old. And even their desires, like I remember there was this one dog, he really wanted to open the door and greet everybody showing up. He was so stoked to do that, and I understood it. And he noticed I understood it. We became besties just for that one night. And I thought that was interesting. And that was just, it's funny. It's interesting because I feel like it's so unfair for dogs because we talk with words and they understand us. And then they just talk in dog world and we don't really understand them. And I feel really sad for that. It's an interesting connection. And the less of my mind that I use, the more that I hear. I think the hardest part for all of us is translating it into words. Like I remember there was one animal that showed me neurotransmitters that their human was helping them with. I never thought of that. I'm like, really? You're getting more neuroephrine and I don't know what. And I'm like, okay. And I forgot what it was, but that person kind of validated what I said. So I'm like, yeah, it's animal-human relationships are really interesting. But speaking of just animal guides showing up, I feel like they live inside of us right now. We're all, we're still animals. We're still in an animal suit. Yeah. If you guys want to do this experiment, that we do not ask this, but if you guys want to, find Lucy and take some Lucy in a high dose and walk into Walmart, everyone's going to turn into an animal. You're going to see their spirit animals in them, and I'm not sure how that works, but it just happened. It's our frontal lobe, the filters in our frontal lobe start to loosen, and we see everything. I think I read this somewhere, that the eye is only meant to see what we can tolerate and not see everything. That's the function of the eye. And it just made so much sense. I'm like, yeah, we see what we can tolerate. It's not that we're seeing everything. And guys, I
And
need to wipe my beak. 1 second, but go for it. I'm listening.
yeah, no, that's really interesting that you bring that up because we were talking about manifesting timelines and stuff earlier. And I've actually read something similar to what you're talking about is that the brain itself will actually, everything does exist, right? The brain, the human brain itself just filters it into the most acceptable reality. And all you have to do is change which perspective and which emotional frequency you want to go towards, and it's really exactly what you're saying. Like, we can only perceive so much of it, and what we're expecting to see is usually what we get.
And I would say the hardest part of it all is to accept that our mind will always help us survive. So if we're trying to access something or tune into something and we hit a wall, it's the mind that's like, I don't feel safe with this. Like, what are we accessing? What are we doing? What are we looking for? We're going to be crazy. We're going to be looked at as this. So we're just not able to crack through our access. But I would say for those that are really trying to, when the mind is just like closing in or building fences, I would breathe into it and imagine a ball just breaking one fence or widening the room one at a time. And the more we do that, slowly it starts to open up. Like, things start to show. I personally have just a room. Like, I just have a default, like, access room. It's like anything that I need or questions, I'm just going to ask in that default access room. It's just going to show up there. It's my safe place. And my whole body encoded it. Like, oh, this is just our safe place to be weird. It's like, yeah, we can just sit there. And some people do that with mediumship, too. This is the access room, like the phone for people that have crossed over to, like, show up here. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be an empty room. It can be even the pyramids for some people. It can be the clouds or whatever feels right. But I would say following the breath as a practice. And it's a slow practice, we can say, but suddenly you'll hit an opening, like where things will just open up or show up. And for those that just dissociate at night, like, I don't know if you're one of those, they'll just, like, you're just out of your body, out of your mind, but you cannot really do anything or think. I would say practice traveling. Just travel. See where you go. Just practice noticing where you're going. Because when we're dissociating, like, you're just a salami and you can't really do anything. You can't work out. You can't watch anything. You can't hear anything. You can't talk to anyone. But you can't sleep. And you don't want to sleep. But you want to exist next to somebody, that's across the room. You just want to exist with them at that same time. I would say notice where you're going in that moment. Because you are going somewhere. It took me time to believe that. I forgot, somebody told me you're actually going somewhere in that state. And I would say notice that, because sometimes you'll find yourself going into, like, pictures you saw on YouTube. You could be in a song. You could be in another country. You could be in a memory, like you're still resolving. You're still hearing a conversation of a fight you had, and 10 years ago. Like, and even though you don't think about that, it's like, just notice what the body is like. Oh, this is still living inside of me. And a lot of times just needs a witness and a reminder, hey, we're no longer in that place and we don't believe what that person said. We're doing good. Just kind of like an inner parent that acknowledges, like, okay. And poof, it dissolves in the body. And you might even go take a poop sometimes if you want to go into that direction. And it does happen. You're like, wait, why do I need to poop? Something got digested. Yeah.
We've actually talked about that before, is literal physical blocks, because you can start to physically carry these things in an unhealthy manner, like stress and cortisol and all of that. They become a biological block, and you start to carry them around, and you have to purge the block when you've released the emotional attachment to it. So that actually really resonates.
And I believe a lot of us that are struggling to show up and keep doing that for ourselves is because no one has done that for us. And it's harder when you're doing something for yourself for the first time versus you met somebody and you've lived together and somebody did it for you first. It's like somebody became your first inner witness. It's a lot harder to become your inner witness if you hadn't had somebody become your inner witness first. And so I just want to, I don't know, commend anyone that's trying this process and they've never had support. And And yes, I'm grateful for YouTube and, for the internet for bringing people together, but it's still harder to do things for yourself when you haven't met people in person. I just want to acknowledge that out loud. I feel like that's not much acknowledged.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me to the next thing I was going to ask. What would you say to listeners who are on the fence about the psychic phenomenon and whether or not they're gifted? Right? Because a lot of people are exactly what you're saying. Oh, I don't know. And it's not until somebody points it out to you or reassures you, like, hey, you're dead on. Right?
Yeah.
What advice would you give?
I would ask them, who do they want to prove that psychic abilities are real? For people that are on the fence or they don't believe it, who's the number one person they feel they need to prove that this is true? A lot of times when if they're even researching that stuff or even watching that stuff or even considering it, we have two hands, two legs, 10 fingers, 10 toes. One hand is doing something, the other hand is scratching, maybe your butt or something like that, or your back of your neck or your butt. And by the way, there's more microbes at the back of a person's neck than a butt. I don't know if you guys know that. So,
I did.
yeah. I learned that in class. That was really creepy, just watching those microbes. Yeah, so you're scratching, you're scratching, you're being dirty. One hand is dirty, one hand is like searching that stuff and looking, right? Notice how like there's one foot in, one foot out. Ask yourself, the hand that's scratching and thinking, who do you really want to prove that this is real for? A lot of times people don't step in because they feel like if they talk about it, they cannot prove this to their loved ones. They cannot prove this to, I don't know, their grandma, their grandpa. Like my grandma and grandpa took care of me when I had nobody and they'll disown me. A lot of times when people really cannot step in, it's because they feel like they cannot explain things and no one's going to believe them. And if they step into psychic abilities, it's like abandoning their whole world, which is their family, their loved ones. And that's why a lot of people cannot step out. It's like, oh, I'm abandoning my church. I'm going to go against, my pastor, my this, my that. For some people, it's even they're abusers, Stockholm syndrome. Oh, I'm tied in with the lease. I'll be homeless if I leave this person. And that's not commonly spoken about. The amount of people that just live with somebody because, oh, I'm going to be homeless. And they slowly start merging into the ideal of that person. I feel like a lot of us do that, and that's not highly spoken about. And the reason I bring this up, because once you ask yourself that, things start to loosen up, and you might see a picture. It could even be a person from the past that you don't even talk to anymore, that you've deemed as somebody important or smarter than you or better than you or more successful than you. Like, that happens in the human world. And I've seen this, and I'm going to be brave and say I've seen this to almost everybody that's been skeptical. They just couldn't explain themselves to somebody important to them, somebody they deemed as better than them. They just couldn't explain that. Because once you feel free to explore and be, and I feel like we've all taken that leap of faith of, I'm just going to be weird, that's it, I'm growing weirder, I'm just going to be weird, and if, they're gonna like me or hate me, like, I'm done pretending. And we've all, including myself, we've all done that. It's like, everyone knows, yeah, oh, that's the conspiracy girl, whatever. Really, everyone in my family knows that. It's just how it is. Like, I feel like a lot of us will just step into this, and for some people, they're still afraid. And I understand, the fear is very real. You lose sometimes some people lose everything. They even lose their house, their health insurance, for those in the States, that happens. You just, there's a big loss. And it becomes a question of, for some people, it's a when. When the kids, finish high school, then I'll be weird. There are people like that. It's very common. It's like, oh, when so-and-so is this, I'll get a divorce. I love my mother-in-law. I'm not going to divorce till she dies. And you'll see that, and it's very common. You'll see that. It's like, oh, she's my only family. I won't have family if I let go. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something I've said multiple times, and Kyla says it as well. It's like being the weird kid amongst the weird kids, because like we really are, especially in this little community. Like there's a lot of us that are connected that really resonate with one another that most normal people would be like, what the hell are they talking about? But we understand each other on a fundamental level, and that's why we connect. And I think that's why we're drawn to each other in the way that we are, is because we resonate at the same frequency. We understand that part of each other.
And I would say what I love about this community is that people are not forcing, you have to be the light. You have to do this, and if you don't do Reiki on this person for 5 minutes, you're bad. And even I've seen that happen, friend. Like, yeah, you're not if you're not this and you're not that, and if you don't just say love and light after every single sentence, you're just ugh. If you don't wear white anymore, if you still wear, your dirty underwear, you're bad. Something like
Yeah.
just all these things. You don't carry a crystal in your pocket. What have you become? I've actually had somebody slightly tell me that they were upset that I didn't carry a crystal. It's like I
Oh,
like crystals. I just didn't carry it that day. Yeah, see, yeah.
yeah.
I feel like a lot of the things that we ponder on or try to evolve into is impacted by our relationships, who we're surrounded by, who we are, and it's a lot more than spoken of. Yeah, people talk about nutrition. Yes, that's a big one. People talk about accessibility to things. Yes, that's a big one too. But a lot of our pain and suffering and lack of evolution is from our human relationships. Not, and I wouldn't say animal relationships because animals we don't do what humans do. Sorry, no offense, guys.
No, and I want to skip back because Spinja put something. We have a dog. It's a funny dog
Yeah.
name. We have a dog. His name's Buck, right? And we swear he was actually supposed to be our biological child, but Kyla and I agreed that we weren't going to have any because we're just
Yeah.
past that right now. So we
Yeah.
named him Buck Rogers, right? This dog will answer you syllabically, right? When you ask him something, he barks the right amount of times, and it literally, you want to talk to an animal, get a husky, right? Because they will actually try to have an actual conversation, and he gets frustrated. Like he will start yelling at us or our child, like not barking aggressively. I mean,
Yeah.
he's actually getting frustrated that we don't understand him, right? Because he's trying to answer us and we're just kind of laughing. And it's like, oh shit, he's really trying to talk back, right? So there are animals that do think they can openly communicate. And I think there is a process, and it probably doesn't involve sound at all, that we can actually connect to the animals
I would say start with sending pictures.
up here.
Like, yeah, from mind to mind. And if you want, you can even print out a picture that you can show your dog, and then share an eye gaze and a laughter and a thing. And throughout the day, you know how I don't know if you do this with your partner. You'll just think of a joke and laugh and remind the person, hey, do you remember reading this or seeing this? And you just laugh, hey, like that. You can have that relationship with your dog.
My my friend Lee is in the audience, and I allow him certain things because he is a freaking miracle. I was talking about this earlier. He survived a double lung transplant and was supposed to be in a coma
Oh,
for a month, and he woke up that day and nobody could figure out how or why. But he also has a very funny sense of humor, and he said that, is it a rough copy? So that was his little, he loves the dad joke, so I will allow that. Lee, we love you, buddy. um, do you meditate or enter a trance at all when you're receiving messages? I know we've seen you like dip back off the screen. Is that you collecting yourself and getting closer
ooh,
frequency?
you noticed that? Kind of, yeah. I just kind of just, phew. Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
kind of like a reflex that just happens.
that's awesome. um, I'm almost hesitant to do this because the last person I asked for any type of reading on my show, anybody that was watching, I was getting an amazing reading when I had Matt Mornian on at the beginning of the month, and it got about 2 minutes into the reading, and my phone died. And I actually just looked up, and it's not even charging right now, which
Uh
is
oh.
how it died last time. I got kicked off the air, but wow, this is going to be like this again. What current global or collective energies would you say you're picking up on right, or are you picking up on right now?
Current collective global energies. Do you want to specify? Like,
Um, what do you see as in the next few months for uh society, community, our small collective? Like, where do you see this collective going in the next six
ooh,
months to a year?
that's a good question. Interesting. I heard the word soul urge. The soul is urging for something. There's a lot of soul urge, and I heard the word the builder. I feel like people are looking for something practical to survive in our community. They need more practicality according to the spiritual paradigm. It's like, how can I turn this spiritual feeling that I have into something that I can create with my hands? I feel like people are trying to look for something practical, and they want to achieve their goals from what I hear. And to do that, they're looking for a form of structure and discipline, but people are also tired. It looks like there's a lot of like hopelessness that's happening. It's like, will this take me anywhere type of energy? And they're in the stage of their building. And what's interesting is that people don't realize by being in the energy of the builder, you're not necessarily seeking freedom. Because to build something, you need discipline. And to be free is to kind of be, you know, not in the mind per se, or everything is sorted. So I think people need to recognize, like, when it's time to build, it's not the time to slack. It's not the time to just rest, because there are seasons of rest. But the season of building, allow ideas to just generate for you, and allow yourself to be disciplined and show up for yourself, we can say. But what I'm
That's
also, but go for it, yeah, go
what.
for it.
No, go ahead.
I lost it, so it's okay.
Oh, okay. No, it's just that really resonated because, like, me and Ben, who is Joy Child's partner, just started our business that I had been discussing, and we're building stuff. And that's something I've noticed is a lot of people in our little collective are starting to be independent of the system and
Yeah.
starting to do things like Kyla does farmers markets and bakes sourdough and some amazing baked goods.
Ooh.
And like Ben and I are going to build custom high-end outhouses for very rich clientele. We've actually got the first one sold already.
Woohoo!
There's something coming about. And is that all part of it? Like that we're all just going to find our own thing and be able to sustain from that?
I would see it not necessarily just finding your own thing. You're finding yourself. You're finding your truth. You're finding why you came here. It's kind of like you're just diving into, I'm not gonna just survive, I'm gonna be in my purpose, and I'm gonna use the word God. God is gonna reward me for being in my purpose. I'm gonna grow corn with what I'm good at. I'm gonna grow corn with what I can create. Because that's also one of the ways we beat depression, is we keep generating ourselves. If you can create and generate and be like, I've created this shed or I've created that, there's nothing beyond, what your hands can create. And for some, it's interesting. I'm hearing more of astrology right now too. Like I'm hearing we're in this. It's kind of like we're in the second house in our community. We're building our habits. We can say the second house is about building your habits, the sense of self worth, and how we manage your money, and core values. What do you want to get out of this life? Who are you?
Joanna LeBlanc asked, how do we do this when we're so tired?
That's a very honest question. How do we do this when we're just worn down, so tired, down to the ground? No one is kicking us anymore, but we're just tired. And that's what I mean. It's like we're trying to create habits, and when we're building, we have to keep showing up every single day, and it's exhausting. And especially when we're surrounded by people that don't care. That's the hardest part. When we're surrounded by people that don't care, that depletes all of our energy. All of our energy goes into the person that just doesn't care, somehow takes it. And I'm not sure how to explain that. When we're surrounded by people that just put us down or make us feel like shit for dreaming or for doing the things that we want to do, it gets harder. And you'll see this in people that are stuck in, terrible marriages and relationships. They're stuck with somebody, and that person, even though that person is not doing something directly at them, but their affect, their energy, their personality just drains them. Because the other person is just managing peacekeeping, to always peacekeep. You're kind of turning down the volume internally. You're turning something down, and the more you turn something down, you just go down like this. And then you're just flopped, and I'm gone. I'm back.
Don't.
But yeah, I would say for those that are stuck in that too, and they're just stuck and they can't leave, I would say turn your direction into social issues. And when I say turn your direction into social issues, notice how you interact with technology. Technology will be your best friend, and allow yourself to wish and dream out loud. And when you wish and dream out loud in writing and speaking, you will start attracting people. I would say technology would be your friend. When you're tired, the body's tired, you need to turn on the volume. The volume needs to get louder. And and I'm just gonna say this: people throw bananas at me. I don't know if therapists watch your show; they're not gonna like what I'm gonna say. But sometimes people cannot leave their relationships. It's just not the time. They just can't. They just can't. That's just where they're at right now. And for those that are stuck in that place, that's where technology becomes your friend. That's where you have to become loud, be vocal, and allow yourself to create a version of you that's vocal about all the issues that we're having in this world. Just be vocal, and somehow you'll find yourself coming up with even more ideas. The whole idea is you're training your body not to shut down, because the other person in your life is shutting you down unconsciously. You know, whether it's by name calling, I don't know, all the insensitive things people say that don't realize that they're being assholes and insensitive. You know, like some people are just, every single word is just wrong. I don't, like, God bless them. Like, they just, yeah, they just can't say anything pleasant. Some people are just like that, and you're just stuck with them. Like, oh shoot, I procreated, now I'm stuck. That happens more than people talk about. Most problems are like that. But I would say in those situations, that's where you have to get loud. Find a place where you can get loud. If you can't get loud with that person because they're insensitive and they'll just see something that'll make you turn off make you mute yourself, press the mute button. And we unconsciously do that. We press the mute button. Find a place where you can talk. And you'll start noticing that you'll have more ideas, more things to do. And even for those, if you guys, I don't know why the word book club showed up. If you go to a book club and read a book, you might read a book that pertains to you, what you've been through. It's like, oh, I'm reading a story of somebody that's been through what I've been through. This is how they got out. Okay, now I'm going to do that. The whole idea is you let the heart, you let all the electricity in the body guide you. The electrical energy will guide you somewhere. Don't turn yourself off.
I think that is some very, very good advice. Have you ever had an amazing or even funny prediction come true that somebody has come back to you in a short period that, like, hey, this thing that you said is going to happen just happened, or it's funny, or just one of the most what's the word I'm looking for? Squirrel. No, I'm not looking for squirrel.
Squirrel.
I just totally lost my train of thought. Basically, have you ever had somebody come back to you with a very happy or funny prediction that you had made a short time later?
I can't recall if it's... I have people that see me every 6 months, and it just happened. I never tell them to see me every 6 months. They'll just see me every 6 months, and they'll tell me things that I've said, and everything's out of order than what I've said it. And sometimes I'll do a chart, and then I'll kind of read the energy around that map. And I'm not sure how that works, but I get like a group of people that show up every 6 months. They're like, hey, you said this will happen, but this happened in this month and not that month. But I cannot remember anything particularly funny per se. Nothing comes to mind, but it's kind of just more reading the energy than predicting. And when somebody shows up with those type of questions, I kind of just do an inner prayer of what do they need to know, just so they can have their tools and be in their strength when things happen. And that includes positive things, because sometimes when we're in a dark energy, we miss chances, we miss opportunities, we miss relationships. So it's one of those where I'll just do a prayer that I pray this person's in their strength to see, like, oh, this person's good for them, like, oh, or this is the right path for them, or to be brave to try something new. And, something shows up in that. I'm not sure how that works. And this is just my own experience. I believe everything has already happened, and we're just living it. Yeah. And I don't know how else to say that. And as I say that, I just try to tap into the tape of what happened when somebody's asking me a question, and that's what I see. Yeah, go for it.
And that actually really ties into the next thing, is how does reincarnation and past lives tie into it? Because it's all at the same time, but is that part of what the experience is for you? Like, you're getting from the ancestors, or a past version of yourself, or a past human version of yourself, or is it?
No, it's a good question. So again, this is just from my experience. And I remember looking at the grave at that one point. Somebody opened their camera and they were at their family member's grave. And I looked at it and I'm like, this person is alive right now in some Chinese dynasty. They're dead here, but they're alive there. And I was very confused. Like, that's the first thing that showed. I'm like, this person is still alive right now. And then that person was like, oh, my grandpa used to read about Chinese history, blah, 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 all the time. And I was like, I feel like he's alive right now there living as this. So this, I've had a few more of these experiences, and I feel like we're alive in more than one place. And I'm bad with I have a bad memory. I know in physics they talk about, I don't know how many strings. There's white string theory, some string. There's all these strings, and I don't know, colors, white theory, black. I'm butchering it, but you get what I mean. So I guess like there's all these like reflections and colors, and when I see the words like string, reflection, colors, it's kind of like they're measuring movements in certain directions. If I understand physics correctly, they're measuring up and vector. I don't know. My understanding is I'm just gonna say it as a duck that lives in this place right now, and I go into the back rooms now. You know, it's kind of like you're measuring direction, where things go upwards, downwards, left and right, all around you, like being in an orbit, gravity, etc. I feel like having multiple lives is like that. It's just we're existing in different vectors. And if you want to get weirder, what if we're just one end of one octopus? You right now is just one end of an octopus, and then there is another end, and there's another version of you still stuck in that marriage. Somewhere in, but he's living in 1872. He's still stuck in that marriage somewhere there. And then there's a version of you in, like as a Neanderthal is eating meat on a fire and it's having a happy marriage. And then there's another version of you that is dead, still in heaven, taking care of other family members in another country in France, in the Versailles or something. I don't know. That's the few things that I saw for you for some reason.
That actually really makes sense, because I do have a lot of multidimensional conscious experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes perfect sense. Have you ever accessed any of your own past lives as your human or as your duck self?
It's okay. The human's butt is kind of like settled in. See? But yeah, I wasn't just, and I do this a lot. I will just sit and just let myself travel. And I feel like I've only come to that place because I don't judge myself anymore. Before I used to think, oh, I'm this weirdo, I'm this and that. Now I just like, I've kind of accepted this is me and this is my life. It just gets easier and things will just start showing up. And yeah, there's a lot of things that just came to me. And I feel like a lot of times when people cannot access them because they want to be able to explain themselves and be believed. I've kind of like gave up on that, honestly. I think now everyone knows that I'm just this conspiracy wacko. That's all right. But yeah, and there are people that can share my experience. Well, this and that happened, and they'll share with me and all that. And then there are people that'll just be like, "Oh, what?" And I feel like people are trying to find something extraordinary. Sometimes it's gonna appear like a cartoon. It's just gonna appear as something, or like you look at the clouds and you see a face, and then the face will take you to a random like waffle, like Waffle House somewhere, and then you'll see another version of you somewhere next to Waffle House, parking your car, going somewhere else, and then you travel into somewhere. I think I feel like you have those type of like visions too, Don. It's like you'll go from one, but it's like the story's never complete, so you can never talk about it because it's all these incomplete stories. Allow yourself to talk about the incomplete stories, guys, and then they slowly start completing themselves. I feel like we just have to build trust, and I'm not sure why it works that way. I feel perhaps like our guides or our higher self is just wants to know if they can really trust us. I feel like I'll share something actually about trust. I feel like I've come to trust myself. I remember once I was working with this kid, and the first thing that came to me was potatoes. And I like the parents like, blah, 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 and all I could say is potato, potato, potato. And I'm like, what's going on? And luckily I don't know how I was brave. Maybe I took a smoke that day, just to be transparent. I had the smoke, so I was kind of looser. And I just start talking to her about, like, I'm not sure why, but I see potatoes showing up. Does your son like potatoes? And he just glowed. He was like 4 years old. He glowed. And she's like, yeah, he keeps asking for potatoes for breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I was like, oh, okay, so potatoes are important to him right now. Let's play with potatoes. And we did. And he started opening up. I started trusting that. If I'm sitting somewhere and I hear a nudge, somebody's telling me something 3, 4 times and it doesn't go away, I just accept that I may not understand what I'm hearing, but I'll allow myself to express what I'm hearing. Perhaps the other person will understand it more. Or perhaps as I express it out loud, something else will merge. It's like, okay, I'm not denying it, I'm accepting it, and I'm not judging it. And with compassion, I allow myself to express it. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be compassionate, to allow yourself to express things without being judgmental. I think people just think compassion as, making sure you brush your teeth and have dinner. I feel like we're trained to see compassion as that, or to say something kind to somebody that's upset. But compassion can be just allowing yourself to express yourself. It's with time, it just started. I still struggle with that, I would say, but it's getting easier day by day. But yeah, that situation with the potato, because imagine someone's coming to you with this problem and this happening, and the only thing I can think about is a freaking potato. Like what? So, yeah.
No, I get it, because sometimes I hear things in my head and it's like that doesn't make sense to anything I'm talking about right now, but it has to come out. So I actually really understand that. Um, how do you think or feel that free will versus predestined paths work within your readings? Because there is the aspect of free will, like, you know, if, yeah, I'll simplify the question: free will
No,
versus predestined paths.
no, this is really important. I guess I said earlier that I feel everything has already happened. You know, everything has already happened, and from my experience, I feel like we have exit points. And I'm not sure how that works. The soul will just be like, okay, you're not going to get better. I'm going to exit now. And you'll see it in people, they suddenly, at the age of 40, just die from car accidents. I don't know if you've seen a group of people that died from, they've been chronic drinkers. They've always driven and drunk all their life. And suddenly they just pass away. It's just like, oh, this person's been drinking and driving for 20 years and never had a car accident. And one day they just go. It's kind of like an exit point. The soul is like, okay, I'm just gonna leave now. And I'm not sure how that works, but I feel like free will is the soul choosing itself. Unfortunate things happen to us, but free will is the choices that we make by the predestined path that presents itself. And I'm not sure, and this is just me. People throw bananas at me, and that's all from my own experience. I feel like we've chosen everything, but it's like a Goosebumps book. Have you read those? Where it's
Yes.
like, if you take this choice, turn to page this. When you take that choice, turn to page that. I see life as like that. That's the free will part. We'll just choose this and choose that. It becomes frustrating when all our choices lead to nowhere. But what if that's just how it is? All our choices lead to nowhere. So find your best friend and go nowhere with them. That's my message, actually. Yeah.
It's funny. I've actually said that to Spinge a couple of times. Like, this is just a choose your own adventure. We're the
Yeah.
universe, the creator, God, the divine, whatever you want to call us, having a human experience. And I usually don't give movie recommendations, but a friend of ours turned us on to oh dear, what's his name? Ryan Reynolds movie called The Nines, and
Ooh.
absolutely phenomenal movie about the divine playing humans. And that's what I really think this experience is, because I don't, this one isn't meant to be black pill or anything. Even
Yeah.
if, like, if the God or the universe already knows every single choice you're going to make, do we actually have free will? Well, I think that's exactly what you just said, is the choose your own adventure points. Like, we have a direct line, but there's also branches.
No, that's a great visual. Yeah, there's also branches too. Yeah, that's right. There's also branches. But I think the hardest part about that question is, notice who is asking that question. So the version of you that's asking that question. Is that version of you afraid? Is that version of you angry? So the answer is dependent on the version of you that's asking. Because a lot of times we're asking the same questions that we've asked when we were younger. If you think about it, we may be asking the same question, I don't know, think of questions you've asked in 2012, awakening state, 2012, 2015. We may be asking the same question, but who is asking them is totally different. So you're going to have a different answer. So I would say ask the version of you who is asking that question. And we can do that right now if you're comfortable. And let's just to show an example to everybody how that changes things.
See, to me, when I wrote that question, it was the intellectual version of myself. And I thank everybody that always says I have great questions, but it's really just the nerdy bookworm version of me that comes up for the questions. And then the open-minded spiritual version of me does the show. Right?
That's
and
a good start.
I don't even agree with my own questions when I'm done.
Yeah. I feel like you tune into the collective consciousness too. You're asking questions for your soul group. I feel like it's not just for you right now. I feel like you're asking questions for other versions of you that are in a different path of your spectrum. So I would say trust the questions that shows up. That's the first point. The second point, you said that the nerdy book version of you. So let's go into that. Is that the version of you that wants to understand the world? Or just give me an example. I guess I want to hear it from you. Who's the nerdy book version of you?
It really is. Okay. I was the atypical C student, but I was basically an undercover nerd. I was the one who sat in his room and played Dungeons and Dragons and read a whole bunch of books and did all the nerdy stuff. But I had the long hair and wore the trench coat and the black sunglasses and smoked weed in grade 7. I was the atypical Bart Simpson, but I was also the smart version of myself at the very same time. Like I hid it away from everybody, and he's the one that writes the shows, and then this version of me does them.
No, okay, let's give you a different way of saying what you just said. For some reason, I don't know. How do I say this? Just to make it sharper. See it as like we're just making the words, bolder and sharper on paper of that version of you. It's the version of you that know that there is more, but to know what is there, it's like you have to knock on the door. It's like there's a version of you that's like, I need to knock on this door and that door, and once I open all these doors, I'll air the room, and then it will show me a new path. Hey, Slee, I got it. Yeah, you are channeling the collective consciousness. It's like the version of you that's channeling that. But I would say also it sounds like it's the version of you that kind of like it's your love language is to know, perhaps. It's your love language. Is to ask questions.
I think so, and again,
it's
that's
a beautiful
something.
Thing. Yeah.
We're often told not to do. We get groomed into like not asking questions and not doing stuff that we actually feel drawn to, and it's not being authentic.
How old were you? Do you remember how old you were when you were taught not to ask?
Oh. See, this is a very funny story, and I'll share something. Up until I was about 6 years old, I used to go around and my mom would actually take me to her friends and I would explain everything to these people. And then I entered the public education system and that started getting pushed out of me. But like all of the things that I understand now, I understood when I was like 4 or 5 years old, except it sounded really funny coming out of a small child telling everybody that we're all just little dots of energy and everything is light and it comes from a higher source of a message that we're getting. When you hear that from a 4-year-old, it doesn't sound quite as serious as when it comes from a 48-year-old, right? So I put him away for a very, very long time, and he peeks out and writes these shows and asks all the questions. So I would say at about 5 or 6 years old is when I got told to be quiet.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Somebody's like, oh, you're not a good slave. Be quiet. Kind of like, I'm a slave. I'll never say that. Your dad's a slave too. He'll never say that. We are slaves to things. We'll never say that. So now you have to be a good version of you for that master. So you're not being a good slave to your master if you ask questions. Slaves don't ask questions. The end. And in some countries that's happening today, you can't even read or write. It's this like lock that people have on minds. It just looks different in, first world countries versus, third world countries. Yeah. I'm glad
No,
you broke through that. It takes a lot of guts and courage to do that, buddy.
that and that's why again I've said this multiple times. I love this show because most often it ends up being a therapy session for me or the guest, or both for
Hmm.
that matter, or the audience, because this is really where this stuff comes out. And like you were saying, I hope everybody that listens to this in the future gets something out of it as well, because it needs to be discussed. We need to compare notes to understand what is going on and how to navigate it. And I think that's shows like this, conversations like this, actually help other people think too.
Yeah. And I don't know why I feel drawn to share this, but I hope that helps you trust yourself more. But a lot of times people get fame and recognition when they pass on. It's the next generation. For example, I forgot the name of the author that wrote Peter Rabbit books. Do you recall her name? If not, that's okay. I don't recall her name. But the lady that wrote the Peter Rabbit books, she wasn't well known. No one wanted to publish her work. And actually, these stories were written for children dying in the hospital. She felt like they were
Oh,
lonely and she wrote stories for them with all these animals and friends. And then she decided, oh, if these children like, I should share it with a wider audience. But no one wanted to, publish it. And then she had two people believe in her and they were lovers and they passed away. So she just kind of like immersed herself into basking in beauty and preserving lands. And only, yeah, Beatrix Potter, and only later, she self published in the end, but she didn't get that much of recognition till she passed on. I know there's all these stuffies and toys. People have a Peter Rabbit stuffy somewhere. There's cartoons.
that
You might
I
imagine there's a
actually
cartoon of this right now somewhere.
I actually grew up reading those books and didn't know that. I knew recognized Beatrix Potter, and both. That was kind of funny. You guys couldn't see it, but Joy Child and Spinja, same time Spinja put it in the chat, Joy Child texted me, so I was like, okay, the collective knows the name because I don't. Back, just one more thing on the free will versus
Yeah.
predestination. Do you think, and this is, I'm just asking for your understanding or opinion,
Hmm.
do you think there's a middle ground where we reach a neutral residence where we can just kind of make our own path, right? It's not what we're being told to. It's just like kind of, I don't want to say just existing, but we're almost in full control.
I think, like, for example, this conversation, this YouTube channel, like, you didn't have to sign up to a TV show and get approval from channel so and so to make this video, to ask those questions, and to be an interviewer and to be a host, Like, yeah, I feel like it's happening right now through those small mediums.
That is awesome. I don't want to keep you too much longer because I know you are
Oh,
in.
no, I'm doing good. If you're going on, I'm going on. It's all good.
Okay. Um,
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I'd like to ask is, oh shit, I lost my place again. Wow,
Yeah,
I've done
take
that
your time.
twice.
Boop, beep, boop.
Yeah. Yeah, my phone skipped back on me. Ah, dear. How did I just do that? Wow, I just lost my place. Do I need the jug? Spinge is being funny. Do I need the jug? I've always joked that I get in the middle of interviews and I'm like, why is it ever since they took my gallbladder out that I have to go to the bathroom in the middle of my interviews? No, I'm actually good for once. I don't need a
Ooh.
jug. I've almost done that when I get into like a filibuster podcast. It's like, I go to the bathroom so bad, but I'll end up ending the show. But
Huh.
no, I don't need a jug. Um, but what messages for the collective or our community would you put out right now if just to feel into it, what would you say?
Love many, trust the few. Always paddle your own canoe. Yeah, booyah. Yeah, I feel like people need to trust themselves more. People need to love themselves more. Love is the law of the universe. I know it sounds redundant, but people really need to allow themselves to be loved. And when you allow yourself to be loved is when you receive. And that includes healing illnesses for people that are struggling. A lot of times people don't receive or don't commit to their healing because they feel like they're unworthy of asking for help. The amount of people that do that, it's it's more common. I think people don't really talk about it. Having low self-worth is very common. And I feel like especially as people get older, they really feel like their self-worth goes down. And I think that's something to really explore and recognize that there's a way to give back. There's always a way. That even includes, and I'm just going to say it, like, I don't know, like just making yourself a peanut butter jelly sandwich and sharing it with your friends. There's always a way to give back. It's just that we forget it's the small moments like this. Yeah.
It really is. And it's funny that you say that because some of you know and some of you don't. I left home when I was 15 years old. And when I was sitting in my apartment with all I had was basically a bed and my clothes and a dresser, sometimes I would have to go to the food bank. And one of my favorite things, and I get to do it now with like homemade jam and homemade sourdough buns, but sometimes all I had to eat for days on end was a bit of bread and jam at the end of the day. But that bread and jam at the end of my day was another sign of my success.
Yeah.
It was literally the best thing I could possibly do because it was almost this. Now, back then, I saw it as fuck you, I made it.
Mm.
But now it's like this moment of pride for like 48-year-old me to look at 15-year-old me and go, damn, you were incredibly brave. Like, I went to school, I kept up my grades, I had an interest, I was actually trying to become a chef. Then I had a kid. But like every day that I was 15 years old and went to school and had my own money and my own apartment, it was an accomplishment. And I didn't even realize I was supposed to be proud of it. Right. Because we don't give ourselves enough credit. And now that it's like decades later, I'm like, wow, he was so strong. He was so brave. Like, and I just wish there was a way I could sit there and like, you got this, little buddy, and tussle his hair. Like, you're going to be okay. Someday you're going to be sitting in your king size bed, eating buns made by your wife and homemade jam that came from a friend. Right. I don't know where I was going with that, but I believe that we have to hold those positive moments and be able to reflect on them.
Yeah, it's tender. That's the real moments of love. It's very tender. It's like, well, this is really, and as you said, like at that age, like you wouldn't see it as success, but now you can. But here's the thing: what if the version of you there felt something touch them, just like what you did right now? That prayer, that you gestures with your hand, that touch. What if they felt it at that time in that bed and thought, somebody creepy was behind them, but it was just you behind the screen, reflecting and feeling into how proud you are. So if you touch that guy right now, you just touched his heart. Yeah.
It's funny you say that because I've actually reflected on that I think I'm going to do a lot of sharing right now, and this is kind of weird. My mother was in an abusive relationship after she left my father, who was also abusive. And it got really, really bad. And my sister and I prayed for an angel. And a few weeks later, my mom met another man, and he was an enormous man. He looked like a professional wrestler, and he came in and told the person that was staying with my mom that he no longer lived there because he was now with my mom. And we prayed for an angel and we got one. During that same time frame, I remember sitting on my bed, and then I went downstairs and I told my mom, and I'm like, Mom, I heard a voice in my head. Well, fast forward 40 something years to the other night, and I was like, I literally wish I could tell him exactly what we just did. Like, I want to tell him, like, someday you're sitting here and you're okay. And I was closing my eyes and kind of meditating on it, and it struck me. I'm like, oh my God, I was that voice in my head when I was like 4 and went and told my mom that I heard a voice in my head, but it was actually me from now. Right. And that's why I always like try to ask people, especially intuitive people like yourself, how to connect with those younger or other versions of ourselves, because it is completely possible.
Wow, that's like a direct memory connection. I just felt it in me as you said that. Whoa. I feel like you're doing it more often than you realize. And I feel like you're in a place where you just want to be more intentional and more in control. Like, be more instantaneous with it. And you're getting there. Honestly, I feel like maybe that's your walk inside. You're just doing it without realizing that you're doing it.
I think you're definitely right.
And the
Um,
hardest part is really trusting your intention. You can even just try this by yourself right now. Just say I want to put intention to comfort the 10-year-old me or something like that, and see what shows up. Maybe another memory like that shows up. And sometimes it takes, like 4 to 8 SpongeBob hours later. Like, you never know. Yeah,
I love SpongeBob, by the way.
me too.
I remember the first episode. I'm sorry, I'm going to squirrel
No,
again.
no, you're good.
First episode, and I looked at my partner at the time, and I went, "This show is so stupid. It's going to be popular." And she's like, "No." And within a year, it had blown up, and I'm like, "I told you." Because she's like, "How did you know that?" I'm like, "Because I was baked out of my mind the first time I saw it, and I loved it." And that's what kids like. Is kids love stoner comedy, and they have no idea why. Right. And I saw it and I was just like, yep, this is going to be popular. And it was. So
There's
um,
two types of people. There's people that like SpongeBob and people that don't. I really believe it boils down to that.
I think so too. There's something special about SpongeBob because it seemed like it came from a very clear place.
Mm.
Sorry. I am disconnecting all I kind of here and there in both places right now. So
Okay.
just give me a second here. I have to center myself.
I took you too many places within yourself.
No, I went
Imagine
to
clouds.
I went to 10-year-old self there and started getting lost in my own old thoughts. Um, okay, and I'm back. How important, and I guess this is where we'll wrap up because I think I got to do a couple other things. How important do you think meditation is in people's daily practice to keep themselves clear?
I'm going to answer it through the lens of states of consciousness. And to be in a state of consciousness is to choose a certain state of consciousness. So there's a difference between somebody that wants to use meditation as a tool to be productive. That's earth-based state of consciousness. People, they're like, I'm going to meditate 10 times a day so I can be productive in this world. I am sure that works, but I don't really understand how meditating 10 times a day helps a person be productive. Just to be transparent. For those that want to explore that, they should, I don't know, seek a coach of some sort. I know there's coaches like that. Like, if you do this 10 minutes a day, you will be sober, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I've seen those people. I feel like you've met those people too. Mm-hmm. And then for those that want to be more in the heart space consciousness, be in the heart center, meditation becomes a form of, it becomes like a warm blanket, a cloak. For those that want to be in the heart space, it's not even necessarily, I'm going to meditate for this. You just tune into your breath because you want to live in the heart state. You want to be a compassionate self. You want to slow down your morning. You want to slow down your life. You've been on fast forward for so long, you want to slow down. And I feel like a lot of times people don't realize they're meditating when they're doing that. They're like following their breath. And for those that are in the third eye consciousness, they're like, let's find mushrooms. Let's find this. Let's find that. I'm going to go meditate. It's like, I feel like that's the third eye consciousness. There are people that are doing that. It's like, oh, I'm going to meditate so I can just tune in every single day for no reason. Just like that. I just want to tune into something. I'm one of those people. It just becomes you. You'll just do that. You can meditate by drinking a cup of coffee. You put your hands on the coffee, feel the warmth of it. You smell it. It's like you're immersed. And then there's like a radio channel. You're somewhere there. You're hearing that radio channel at the same time. And then zoom, you're in somewhere. Something just shows up. That's a form of meditation. And then there's the crown-based consciousness. That you're just... Some people can easily be there, and some people, like... Or even for me, it takes me time to just, oh, here's grandma. Hi, grandma, how are you? Type of, like, meditation. Or something drops. Oh, I felt my uncle. I don't know. Okay. Oh, he's here. Hey. And then you just move on. So I guess meditation differs according to whatever state of consciousness you need to be. And the truth is, there's no wrong way to be. It's kind of like a flavor of ice cream, you know? I like, chocolate peanut butter ice cream, stuff like that, or chocolate milkshake. And some people like, I don't know, strawberry. Like, there's really no wrong way. And I feel like it's just a matter, it's like a video game. You choose what game you want to play. You want to play, I'm going to be a spiritual millionaire and do coaching? Totally nothing wrong with that. If they want to do that, that's their choice. Some people are really good at it. But I don't think I would be happy meditating for that sole reason. I'd rather just, I feel like I'm more in the third eye consciousness. I'm just like, ooh, let's go, bleep, bleep, sound here. I would love to be automatically in the crown, but I think I'm like doing that or trying. It gets a little weird with the crown and family members and all that just showing up. It's like you can't really shower in peace. I feel like a lot of us don't step into the crown because you just want to poop and shower in peace. So
Yeah. For me, I find that I end up meditating more to clear my own mind or to figure things out, which is very funny that I do it on such different levels. And I think this is what we were talking about earlier, is there's two versions of myself going on in my head. There's the intellectual version of myself, and there's the very calm, serene, Zen version of myself. And they both meditate for very different reasons. And that's why I like talking about, what are the reasons and processes that other people go through, because it allows me to figure out different pathways for myself as well.
yeah.
On that, I want to know, do you have any final message? Oh, wait, first, where can everybody get a hold of you and contact you if they love, and Selena, I love pooping too. I could be professional if there was such a sport. Sorry, Selena was talking about pooping because we were talking about pooping.
I'm a duck. I poop everywhere, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody poops. That's my job. That's how I make my money. Like I clean up poop. So yay poop. But like I was saying, where can everybody get a hold of you if they want to book readings or sessions with you or what have you? Because I have had personal conversations with you and it's absolutely phenomenal and definitely worthwhile. So where can people do that?
Hey, thank you. I guess you'll find me at psychicduck5d@gmail.com. You can email me and my little hands will type. Tick, 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 will just type to you. psychicduck5d@gmail.com. You'll find me there. Yeah, that's kind
Awesome.
of where I'm at right now. I guess I should do a channel sometime, but I'm getting there. I'm becoming more technologically versed, but I appreciate you just giving me space to be me, and also Rob. Just that is priceless. You guys have no idea.
And I am so glad, I have mentioned this before, I am so glad I was on that New Year's show and you popped on and we got to meet, because that was our very first interaction on Rob's channel. And I have felt a closeness to you, a connection to you since then. And I am very appreciative of you and your time, because you're a very, very gifted little duck. And I always love having you on.
Oh, Todd, thank you so much. Wow, that was a wild day, that New Year's Day.
Oh, it was definitely an interesting. Oh, yes. Before we go, Spin just said, ask Don what his new company is called. Oh, you can't see it. I now work for the Collective.
Ooh. Oh, I love the name.
Yeah, that is the new company that bought my old the old company I used to work for. I can't get that off the screen. I guess it's going to stay there. Because I don't care. Just give me 1 second. Okay. I can't get it off. Why? Go away. Okay. So again, like I was saying, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And I do want to thank everybody that showed up. At one point, there was like 15 or 16 people in the chat. And that is huge for me because, I'm very, very honored that usually I have about 6 to 8, 10 people that'll show up for the lives, and then I'll end up getting 80 views. But tonight, the crowd came out to see the duck, and I am so, so happy you were able to make it. A couple of things I want to mention before we end off here. I didn't say anything over the last couple of weeks, and it's not that I didn't notice. It's I didn't want to say anything to make it go down because I did this once and then it went down and I felt silly. My YouTube channel has broken 600 subscribers, and I love each and every one of you. So thank you very much for all subscribing, and thank you for joining and listening. Because if it wasn't for you guys, well, I'd still be doing this just with a lot less people listening. Um, I absolutely love each and every one of you, and thank you because I started off with like 6 subscribers and now it's over 600. So I can't thank you guys enough.
That's
And
wild, buddy. That's very wild.
And again, my loving wife caught me in a loophole. I said if one person was listening, I wouldn't stop doing this show. And she's like, well, then I'll tune into every episode. So you got me. You got me on a technicality. But, oh, and before we go, I saw that you have a lovely new sweater. Where did you get that?
I am not sure, to be honest.
Well,
I think I even got it from a friend, actually. She sent me a bunch of sweaters. It did.
That is an absolutely beautiful sweater. If you can stick, Spin just says she calls groupie. I do actually have a question or something I want to talk to you about after the show. If you can stick around for just a few minutes, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
And like I was saying, I want to thank you guys all for listening and watching, and for everybody that listens to this in the future on Forbidden Knowledge. I appreciate you guys as well. And again, please go check out the link in the description, and please help Selena Ingalls in any way, shape, form, or even if it's just a positive thought. Please keep her in your thoughts, because we literally were talking about manifestation at the beginning of this show, and she could use as much positive energy as we can afford to put out. So please, please send her and her lovely family as much energetic positivity as you can. That being said, I want to thank all you guys, and if you can, please do go outside, because it's a lot better than sitting in front of this screen. Good night, guys.